What's up, everyone? Welcome to Unmasked, where things are discovered, uncovered, brought to the light, and made known. I'm your host, Lamar Barrett, coming live to you from PG County, Maryland. If you're interested in finding out about the untold stories behind being a college coach, this is the show for you. Being a former assistant men's college basketball coach for 16 years, there are so many untold stories behind the scenes in the life of a college basketball coach. Now, let's unmask them. Today's guest is a longtime assistant coach, a future head coach in the business that I believe. I've been watching his work for a long time, going back to the days when we were working at it was actually Eastern Invitational then, which is now the Hoop Group. So I've watched him for a long time. An individual known as having worked at the Division I, Division II, Division III level, along with the NBA as an intern. And then also a Lakeville, Mass native, Jeff Rafferty. I'm going to let him explain a little bit about where that's from. But let me read a little bit about his bio first, and then we'll welcome Jeff to the show. Jeff is a graduate of Springfield College in 1997. Actually, then he goes to Texas Pan America, which probably a New England guy going to Texas Pan America is a little different, but he did it for a season, came back and went to Springfield College for another couple of years to work, and then on to Union College, Division III level, and then the UMass Law for 4 years, did an outstanding job. A couple of years he was associate head coach at UMass Law, where they made a couple of Final Four appearances. I know it was Elite Eight, Final Four appearances. And then from there, he goes to New Hampshire, where he spent a couple of years with Bill Harriet, who's an outstanding coach, who's been up there for a long time. And then I believe it was Bill Harriet. And then from there, he goes to Delaware for 9 years, where he spent 9 years, where he did a good job of building the program back up, get to the NCAA tournament. His last 3 years there, 2013 to 2016, he was the associate head coach. And then he leaves there and goes to NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, where he's presently employed. He's been there for 4 years, where those guys have had a couple of very good seasons, probably the most wins in school history since he's been there. I want to say welcome to the show to my good friend, Jeff Rafferty.
Lamar, man, thanks for having me on. This is great. I was thrilled when you called me last week, and I had the chance to check out the show and what you're doing, and you've had a couple really interesting guests, and I like the whole platform that you're providing, and I'm happy to be here.
Thanks, man. And you know what? So, Jeff, let's jump right into it, man. Let's get unmasked. First thing I like to ask, and you, like I said, you've been in it for a long time now. You don't realize that years just go by so fast. Whether you started at Division I, II, or III level, and you can talk about either one of those. Like, there's no handbook to being a college coach. We all know that. You just thrown into the fire. No one gives you direction. Everyone assumes you know what you're supposed to be doing. You know, there's only a couple of jobs like that. I always say college athletics and being a car salesman. Seems like no one tells you what to do. Just figure it out. And also working at the Hoop Group for Rob Kennedy. That's another one. So tell me about your first day, first week, first month, after things are done with human resources or you're done with orientation. Like, what's that like? What happened in those days?
Well, you know, I think every place is different. And I think as you go from job to job, you're more prepared, and you know, now I know what my daily schedule for the most part is going to be. But like my first day as a college coach, this is funny. I was interning with the Celtics, and then I was offered a job at Texas Pan American. I spoke to Delray Brooks over the phone for 2 or 3 times, and then he offered me a job. He said, "Can you be here in 3 days?" And I said, "Sure." So I had to figure out, I mean, McAllen, Texas is the school's actually in Edinburgh. I lived in McAllen, but Edinburgh's damn near Mexico. So we had to figure out a way to get me down there. And I left 3 days later. I got down there, and I actually met with Delray in the airport, and he was heading out to recruit. So we met for an hour at the airport. He gave me the keys to a car and my address to my apartment and the address to the office. And it was my first couple weeks on the job. Back in the day, Lamar, when you remember, this is whatever, the summer of 97, I guess, there was a head coach and then 3 assistants, but only 3 guys were allowed on the road at the time. So I went down there as the third assistant. It was an unpaid spot. I taught at a course or two at a community college, and so I didn't really get on the road a whole lot. But my first days, I was alone in the office. A welcome to college basketball baptism. I had a whole lot of questions, and you know, every time those guys would call the office, I would stay in there like 16, 18 hours a day. I didn't even have a cell phone, so it was like as soon as those dudes called, I had a list of questions to ask them. You know, so that was, I learned a lot on the fly for certain.
Wow. Interesting. Like around by yourself, like, and meet them in the airport. That's kind of interesting. So you got a crash course, like real quick, like in the airport though.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, like I said, you've been in for a while. We all know that the lifeline of college athletics is recruiting. And I'm sure you've had some good ones, and so probably some ones that's been, you know, you like, wow, what happened there? But what was your best and worst recruiting story?
My best and worst recruiting story. Let's start with my worst. My worst recruiting story probably would be, we got a commitment from a kid when I was at New Hampshire, a wing scorer from New York City. And he was super talented. I'm not going to say his name. He was super talented, and he was playing for the New York City Boys Club. And they came up to do like a prep school swing up in New England. So it was probably mid-season. I said to Coach Harry, and I said, listen, my man's coming up. He's playing, I forget actually which school it was. He's playing on Tuesday afternoon, whatever, at 5. So after practice, if you want to hop in the car with me, you know, you can come with me and we'll go check him out because Coach Harry hadn't seen him. So sure enough, we practiced. Coach and I jump in the car, shoot down 45 minutes an hour wherever we went. And Coach Harry's old school, you know what I mean? And this is before, like 15 years ago, it's a long time. And it's before, you know, all the guys wear the ear pods now when they're warming up and all that. So I was like, oh man. So he goes through warm-ups with his headphones on. And if you know anything about Coach Harry, he's a tremendous, tremendous defensive coach. And it starts on that end of the floor. So the game starts. My man hits a wing 3 to start the game. So you're feeling good as an assistant. Whenever you bring your head coach, you're panicking that the dude's not going to play well. And this kid was already committed to us. So he hits a 3. Lamar, if I told you the first 3 or 4 possessions of the game, he didn't get over half court to play defense. Coach Harry was so heated, man. We sat there for about an hour and 40 minutes. I don't think he said a word to me. And then the hour drive back to campus, I don't think he said a word to me. So as we pulled up at school, I said, you're not crazy about this dude, are you? And he said, Coach, figure out a way to get out of that one. so that was a tough one. That was a tough afternoon with the boss, and you obviously always want your recruits to play well. But like you said, man, I've had my fair share of really good ones, and I've swung and missed on a couple, and you got to get more right than wrong, you know, to be doing this for 23, 24 years like I have been. You got to get more right than wrong. So
true, man. In a good one that stood out, I know you have a lot more, you know, we always say that you have some good ones. Anything that stand out, or just it was just so many good ones?
I mean, yeah, a couple, yeah. Like Jamel Hagans was a very good player for us at Delaware. And you know, it's funny, man, some of the really good ones I've had, it's not like I beat a whole lot of schools for him, you know, like Jamel, it was like Radford and us, and he ends up, you know, we were building the program. He started as a freshman and got beat up as a freshman. He was better as a sophomore, and he was obviously a monster as a junior and senior. You know, so he was a good one. Devon Sadler, obviously, is probably the best player I ever coached. And I knew nobody recruited him early on because he had some academic issues. So I knew that was going to be he committed the summer before his senior year, but I knew it was going to be a 2-year process in terms of getting a prep school involved. So that was a good one. But again, not a lot of schools were involved with him until he blew up at Winchendon. And by then he was a loyal kid. And those 2 guys really changed the complexion of the Delaware program. So those 2 come to mind. there's a kid that was a really good player for us at Lowell, Dana Jones. And I like his story, Lamar, because he was a kid that he committed to Pitt out of high school. He was a New York City point guard, and he committed to Pitt, and he didn't get his grades right. So he went to Tallahassee Community College for a year, was player of the year down there. And then his mother got very ill, so he came back to New York City and was like out of school for a couple of years. It was a weird story. So long story short, he was out of school for a year or two, and then he finished at Westchester Community College. Well, I stumbled upon the kid and found out that he was not D1 eligible, and we ended up recruiting him, and he was a 2-year starter for we won 59, 60 games in 2 years and went to 2 Elite Eights, and he got we had the National Player of the Year, but Dana ended up getting like the region most outstanding player. You know what I mean? So like he was a big time player, and that was a great story because that was a kid that had a really tough run at it, and to be able to finish his career and go to 2 Elite Eights and get his college degree, and he's doing great things in life now. And then I don't know. There's 3 right there. Zach Cooks obviously is our best player at NJIT right now, and he's another kid that was very under recruited. He was on the Nike circuit, and he came off the bench for the Southern Stampede, and we really liked him, and we got a couple commitments in August, and him and his family were scheduled to visit like the first week of September. So I just called. I said, listen, man, honesty is the best policy. We're looking forward to having you up in September, but you may want to come up. You may want to drive up from Atlanta with your parents before then, because we just got a commitment. We may get another commitment. I don't want you to lose out on the opportunity, because he didn't have any other scholarship offers. So he said, Coach, let me call you back. So he gets on the phone. He calls me back 10 minutes later with his parents. The kid committed to us without ever visiting school, and he's gonna go down as one of the top 1, 2, 3 players in NJIT history, after this year. So I don't know. That there's 4 pretty good stories for you right there.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And I'm gonna ask you this because your family and things of that nature. But like, what did you have to give up achieving your current level of success?
I don't look at it that way necessarily, Lamar, because this is the life that I've chosen. And my wife has chosen. She's been with me every step of the way. We were college sweethearts, and we've been married 18, 19 years now, and she used to pay my cell phone bill when I was a Division III assistant, for crying out loud. So this is the only way of life that we know. It's the only way of life my kids know. But in terms of giving things up, I would say family time for certain. So that's probably the thing that sticks out to me. Obviously, money, it takes a while to make a living in college coaching. And I had a lot of $0 paying jobs and $3,300 paying jobs and $12,000 paying jobs. And so it takes 4 or 5, years. And I remember being in my early to mid 20s and reconnecting with college friends and stuff, and they all nice cars and money in their pocket, and I'm just trying to live paycheck to paycheck. So that's I don't know, family time and just I just think you get so much more back, Lamar, just doing what you love and influencing as many people's lives as you can. So I don't really look at it that way. But
so true, Jeff, so true. Now, we all know this too, scout reports. You can all listen. Everybody knows if you're watching games and you see that person on the sideline, they're jumping up and down. We all know like whose scout it is, because everyone takes pride in their scouts, and they're the most aggressive when it's their scout. Like, do you remember a time, like what was your best and worst scout report that you may have had during your career?
That's a great question, and that's a part of the business I really enjoyed, Lamar. And it's funny. We do take great pride in every game, but obviously when you spend countless amount of hours putting together the report and making sure the guys know everything, I tell you this, I always felt I was at New Hampshire for 2 years and then Drexel for 9. I always felt like when we played Vermont, okay, Mike Lonigan was building the program, and they were good. They weren't quite as good as they are now, but they were really good. And I always felt like I knew every single thing they were going to do. Like I had every play call. I was barking things out from the bench and this and that, and then I'll say this, I feel the same way. And I love these games. These were wars. I feel the same way about Bruiser Flint's Drexel teams. I had that scout my whole 9 years there. And it was like Mont and him were the best of friends. It was always like a cool relationship. It was a rivalry between the two schools. And I always felt like I knew everything they were going to do offensively. Defensively, we knew exactly what we were facing. They were going to punch you in the face. And, so you had to be tough as nails. But I tell you, like those two scouts, I feel like I probably did a really, really thorough job. And damn, if you look back at those 11 seasons against those two teams, I'd be lucky if we split. You know what I mean? I bet you that's about what it was. I think we probably split with Drexel and maybe stole a game or two up at Vermont. I don't know. So those two scouts stand out as ones I was pretty thorough and prepared for, but it didn't always lead to a victory. And ain't that the story of it?
You're so right. And that's what people, you do your best. Like you think it's your best, and players got to go out and play the game, man. That's what happens a lot of times. It come down to.
No question. My worst scout ever. And if you gave me a couple minutes to think about it, I probably could tell on myself a little bit. But I do remember maybe my first year at Delaware, we had a non-conference game versus Central Connecticut. Okay. And I had the scout. I felt relatively prepared for it. And we come out and we were building. We weren't very good. We come out and opening tip, we get the tip, I think, and they immediately go to a 1-3-1. Now, I hadn't talked about a 1-3-1. I had never seen a 1-3-1 and they ended up beating us, whipping us. Actually, a kid from Delaware had come home, was on that team. I forget his name, but he had a great game.
Joe Sessions or something like that?
Yeah,
Joe
maybe.
Sessions?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So I think this was right before you got to Central, because I remember after the game seeing Steve Curran in the hallway, and I'd be like, really? Like a 1-3-1? And he said, Raff, I ain't lying to you. We put that in during shoot around this morning. So Monte's looking at me like 1-3-1, like 1-3-1. It's like two possessions in the game. I said, Ma, I've never seen them play a 1-3-1 in my life. I just watched their first 6 games of the season. Like, what do you want me to tell you? So that's all they played that day. That was a slap in my face.
I understand you. Those are the ones you hate because coach is turning around the whole time, looking at you like you didn't know this was coming. I feel you on those, man. Yeah. Biggest challenge you think you have experienced since you've been in college coaching? And you talked about you worked for little or nothing, or it could have been some other things, but like, what's the biggest challenge you think you've experienced?
I think early in my career, like I'll be honest with you, I wasn't a good player. I wasn't a great player, so I didn't have a name breaking into the business. You know what I mean? So I think I had to. I don't want to say I worked harder, but I think my parents raised me the right way, and I had a strong work ethic, and I just felt like early in my career, and when I mean early, I caught a break to work for the Celtics, and then I caught a break to be a Division I assistant at 21 years old. Although it was an unpaid spot, I was still thrown into the fire right away. But I just felt like, and then when I moved back to New England, like the first 3, 4, 5, 6 years, I really just wanted to make a name for myself, in terms of being a good recruiter, but also back in the day, you could go out and speak at camps, so before they changed those rules. So I used to call schools Division 2, 3, 1, and I'd volunteer my time. Most of the schools would pay me, so that was a way to make some money when I wasn't making money on the side. But I wanted to just get out there as much as possible, and show my value as a recruiter, but also as a basketball coach and a teacher. because, you know, it's a lot of guys get their breaks because of the player they were, you know what I mean? And I knew that wasn't going to be the case with me. So I was glad, I think I identified that early and made a name for myself, you know, early on.
Definitely did that. I mean, I just remember you being a grinder, working hard, and like you definitely did that from, you know, a lot of people getting to know who you are, knew what you were about. Now I ask you this though, because to me, I said it earlier, I look at it and say, okay, why is Rafferty not a head coach? I know you're in a great situation in NJIT, okay, but why? He was at Delaware, he had success. You know, why is he sitting on a high major bench? That's just my opinion. That's from the work I see. But like, do you ever find that there are things about you that people might misunderstand? Like, what are they?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, it's funny. Yeah, I think most of us aspire to be a head coach. I certainly do. I've had opportunities. I've interviewed for, you know, a couple Division III jobs early in my career, and I wanted to give a run at the Division I thing, and I've interviewed for you know, a couple Division II jobs, and I've been on a couple Division I campuses for head jobs. So I've had some opportunities. I've certainly had some opportunities as an assistant to interview at higher level jobs, and I think, like, you know, my next step obviously would be to be a head coach, or to be a high major assistant, you know, where obviously the money can change some things for myself and my family. But it's just, you know, whatever. I look at it and I've been like, yeah, well, I want to be a head coach, or yeah, I should be at this biggie school. But you know what? There's a lot of guys that haven't survived in the business 23, 24 years either. So, you know, I value that and I appreciate that, and I'm humbled by that. You know, but I also want more, you know, and hopefully I'll get there. And the only way I know how to do that is to work hard and be as good as I can at my job, and to treat people the right way. So that formula has kept me in the business this long. I'm going to keep doing it, and hopefully I catch a break and can run my own program at the Division I level.
And I'm hoping for that too, man, because I think you're not just, you know, everybody like, yeah, you're relentless, but I think you're a bright basketball mind and very capable of running your program and being successful. So, what would you try to teach your players besides basketball?
That's something I've always valued. I mean, just life things. And I tell you this, man, if this pandemic, if this last 3 months hasn't changed or opened up eyes as an educator or as a college coach in terms of what everybody in the world's going through, but the young student athletes that we're empowered to coach. And then on top of it, you add the racial and social injustice going on. I've spent more time on the phone with my guys, or on FaceTime or Zoom calls with my current players, former players, than I probably ever have, Lamar. Like I've been in more contact with these guys for the last month than I probably would have been if we were on campus with them. You know what I mean? And that's real. You know, so I think I've always been a guy my phone's been on 24 hours. I've always been a sounding board to them. I've always talked to them about issues, but not like I have the last month. I mean, I just, you know, just like I said to someone recently, like just being a good person and doing the right thing and being an ear for somebody, like that's not enough. You know what I mean? So, does it lead to uncomfortable conversations? Yeah, maybe, but they're so valuable. Like not like you think they are. And the other thing is, man, like these kids are family to me. You know, the guys that I've coached in the past, I got really good relationships with most of them. You know, and then the guys that you coach now, I mean, they need that. They want that. They want relationships. They want people to care for them and coach them and correct them. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I think I've always kind of had. It's always been important to me to have good relationships and be transparent with my players. But what's happened in the last 3 months, man? Anything goes with me now. Like, so that's something moving forward that I'm going to make sure, you know, I'm there for and and I do what's asked of me. You know what I mean?
Yep. Appreciate that, man. That's just good stuff, man. And like more people should be like you. It's just that's how I feel. What are your best and worst memories in coaching?
My best memories, certainly, I don't want to sound cliche-ish, but I've had a couple players graduate from college that you know, first generation college, you know, students, and getting their degree. Those are awesome moments. Graduation day is always really cool to me. You know, and then winning. I ain't gonna lie to you, man. Winning. I've been very fortunate to work with good people in good programs, and I've had the opportunity to see college basketball at a lot of different levels, and to get to the NCAA tournament at the Division III level a couple times, and the Division II level 3 or 4 times, and then the Division I level. You know, to get to the NCAA tournament and to win championships and cut down nets, those are memories that you'll never forget, and things like that. And then, you know, above and beyond all that, my favorite, you know, like my favorite memory, like it's cool that we're talking today, because, you know, Father's Day just passed, and that's always a great day to spend with my family and my children, and we certainly do that. But I got this weird thing that, like, every Father's Day at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, I go through my phone and see all the players that have reached out via text or email or called me. And I get great joy out of that and the relationships I have with my former players.
Awesome, man. Now, what was the most stressful situation you ever faced?
Well, you actually, I didn't even finish I did the best moments. I didn't do the worst moments. The worst moments would be, you know, there's certain games over your career you can look back now, and there's certain games that, like, you get, you know, we got robbed in the semifinals in 2013 versus James Madison. You know, we got that was a tough one to stomach, you know what I mean? And it almost cost me my job, because I think I chased the officials out of the arena. But, you know, so that was a low point. And then obviously, you know, when we got let go, you know, if you're in this long enough, you're going to get fired or let go. And people always told me that you're not a good coach until you get fired. And then I never understood that. And then we got let go at Delaware, and I said, I better buy into this theory, you know, now that I got fired. But, you know, Monte and I were down in Miami doing a home visit, and I'll never forget it. It was St. Patrick's Day, and the visit got over, and I drove Monte to the airport and put him on a flight. And then I drove a couple minutes up the road to Fort Lauderdale, and I was going to spend 2 days in Fort Lauderdale recruiting. And so Monte took off that night, and the next morning I got up and I went for a run on the beach, and I came back, and I always bring my phone with me, but my phone was dead. So I just plugged it in. And when I came back, I had a slew of missed calls from Monte, and also a missed call from the parents that we did the visit with the night before. So before I called I called the parents, and they were like, listen, we're going to come up Wednesday, but my wife is going to come now. So can you get an extra play? I said, absolutely. So I just text Ma. I said, I know why you're calling. Player X's mom wants to come on the visit. He goes, knock, pick up the phone. I'm going to call you. And he called me and told me we were let go and to cancel the visit or what have you. And I was just sitting there in a hotel room by myself in Fort Lauderdale. And it was a Friday morning. It was definitely a Friday morning. You know, and I had to figure out a way to get a hold of my wife, because it was probably like 8 or 9, and they were going to announce it at like 10. And Delaware's a fishbowl, Lamar. So, like, we lived right in the community. So it was going to get out. And so my whole thing was to get a hold of my wife, and then to get my oldest son out of school. He was probably 10 at the time, and he just lived and breathed and died Delaware basketball. And I just, my whole thought process was like, my son can't find out at school from a buddy in the hallway, somebody saying something, making fun of him. So I got a hold of my wife, and she got over and got my son out of school. But that was tough, just preparing because we were blindsided by it a little bit. We had some success and been in the NCAA tournament a year or two earlier, and then, you know, you get new administration. It is what it is. They probably could have let us go early in our tenure, but we had a great administration and great support athletically and university-wise, and they gave us the time to build the program the right way. And then we do that, and we have success, and then you get a new president, a new AD, and they want their own people, and I get it. It's, you know, but it was, you know, that was tough. But I will tell you, man, low moment. So I went right from the hotel to the airport, and I tried to change my flight. And they said, sir, that you can't leave till Monday. I said, no, I'm leaving. I'm leaving today. Well, this is a non-refundable. I said, I don't care. So they said, well, there's a flight that leaves at 2:40 or whatever. And all I wanted to do was just get home to my wife and kids and make sure everyone was good. I knew I'd figure out how to stay in the business and make a living. So the woman looks at me and she goes, we got no seats. We got one on the late flight. She goes, actually, there is a flight. There's a seat on the 2:40, but it's first class. She goes, it's really, you know, I forget what the cost was. It was $800-900, whatever. I just gave her that school credit card. I said, swipe that, swipe it. So I got on that first flight and I flew first class, and then I got home and dealt with the, you know, that's the lowest point of your career, man. When you just feel like you let people down.
I feel for you on that, especially when y'all guys have done a great job here. Like you said, get to the NCAA tournament, and then within 2 years, you know, you let go. I mean, I don't know. Expectations, man, has become crazy in athletics these days. Quick question is like, what is the strangest thing a player has done outside of the basketball court?
Oh, man, this is a good question, and I am so glad I just thought of the answer. I'm sure there's a ton of these things. And I'll probably call you back tonight and be like, yo, I forgot about this. But I'm going to tell you this, man. We had a kid at Delaware that we just had him for a year. He was a transfer. From Mississippi Valley State, Davon Usher. He was a terrific player, and he was the final piece of the puzzle to get us over the top and to win the championship and get to the NCAA tournament. Davon is one of the most charismatic human beings I've ever been around. He's a tremendous kid. He was a tremendous player, but a tremendous kid and so much fun. So, you know, because you were at Hofstra, you fly into the Wilmington airport, right? That small little airport. You remember that, Lamar, the Wilmington airport?
Yeah.
Small little joint. So we get in, we all walk in, you know, they got the Wall of Fame and pictures of Jordan because he's from there, and then all the golf paraphernalia, all that. So we walk around and we get the baggage claim, and we're waiting for our bags. And at those small airports, the bags come right out. I mean, there's one flight coming in every couple hours. Well, the thing opens up, Lamar, and Davon Usher comes out of the baggage claim things. He had climbed into the baggage claim outside the airport and taken the thing up. And like, man, if the wrong person saw him, I think that might be a federal offense at an airport nowadays. So my man Davon jumped on the baggage claim wheel, and he came out, and that was one of the funniest moments. I don't think we stopped laughing. Monte, me, Phil, Cheeks. I don't think we stopped laughing the whole trip, man. And we were good, so we were winning games, and it was fun, man. But that's the most outrageous, crazy, you know, to see one of your players come out of the baggage claim thing, you know, all curled up. I mean, it's pretty funny.
That is very funny. And it's interesting you just said something like, you just said Cheeks, you, and Phil. So you're the third one of them to actually come on. How great of a staff that was. Like, you three guys together, and, you know, three guys I know very well and have all, you know, been on the show. That's actually,
and
you know,
that was a really good staff. And we had, I'll say this, all the years I've been doing this, I've worked with and for some really good people and good coaches. That staff clicked as well as any staff I've been a part of, and that's so important. And even before Cheeks, we had Pegues. It was Pegues, me, and Phil. So like that, I mean, that last 5-6 years that I was at Delaware, we had a strong staff, and we enjoyed being around each other. And you know how that is, man. It makes it more enjoyable. You know, being away from your family so much and working as many hours as we are, it's important to be around people that you enjoy being around.
And Pegues, he's also been on the show. So, man, I've had it all, man. The whole Delaware fan.
Yep.
Now, like you work with Kennedy now, Brian. You working with him, and you work for Monte, and you've been with Billy Herring. You've been with some really good guys. And like I said before, I think you can be a head coach or like even a level up. Like if you had a chance to work for anyone in men's college basketball, no, we're not asking Brian, we're not saying he's leaving or any of that stuff. So, but if you had a chance to work for anybody, like who would that be and why? Like, is anyone you look at it like, yo, I just want to pick his brain. I want to like see what he does. Anybody like that, whether it's a AD or even a head coach?
Oh man, I mean I tell you, I like the format of this show, and I like everything just being off the cuff. But that's one question like I'd like to sit down and think about, because there's so many guys, man. There is so many guys that I've been fortunate to work with and work for and would love to work with again. And then there's other guys that you just you just have so much respect for, you know what I mean? And you know, my personality would fit in well with those guys, you know what I mean? And you know, I'll give you a couple names, and then I'm gonna feel bad, like I'm gonna get off the call and be like, I can't believe I didn't mention that dude, you know. But like you know, Phil Martelli Sr. is always a guy I've really respected and admired. You know, Billy Hahn, when he was in the business, is a guy that, like, you know, I've always looked up to him and respected him, and I've been close with his son and got to know Billy really well. And he's a coach's coach. He's a real guy. And I'll tell you this, man, when I was out of the business or in between jobs for the 50 days or 52 days that I was, if Billy Hahn didn't call me all 52 days, he called me 49 or 50 of them. And that shows me what type of person he is. You know, so he would have been a guy I would have enjoyed working with for. Bruiser Flint's another guy I've always admired, you know, from close and far. You know, if Cal or Jay Wright's got a spot open, I wouldn't mind. You know, there's a lot of guys that you just look at and respect and admire their work. And, you know, Bob Huggins is another guy that I've always loved watching his teams play. And yeah, so I could give you names for days.
There's a ton of them, man. There's a ton of good ones out there. And you talked about it a little bit earlier, but like, what's the biggest accomplishment you have experienced since you have been in college coaching? You kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. It may come back. Maybe kind of the same answer, but what's the biggest accomplishment?
I mean, just you can go a million different ways with this week. You can talk about wins. You can talk about your players graduating. You can talk about, I'm being honest, and this is humbling to me, but you know, the fact that I haven't missed a paycheck in 23 years coaching a kid's game, that's a pretty big accomplishment. Because I've seen so many guys that were really good coaches that the business just wore them out and they got out, or they had to get out, or they didn't have an opportunity to stay in. I mean, all these things, and they were good coaches and good people and did things the right way. So I look at it like, yeah, I want to be a head coach, or yeah, I should be making X amount of dollars at a Power 5 school. But then I look at it and be like, well, damn, man, I graduated from college, and the next, you know, I was working in the next day I was on a flight to go to, and I haven't missed a paycheck in 23 years. So for that, that's my biggest accomplishment professionally, to be honest with you.
I actually love that answer. It's authentic. And like, I love it. Like that's hard to do. Like, you know, like you said, you've been at different places, but you haven't missed a paycheck. And that's the great thing about it. Mm-hmm. This is going to kind of throw you off a little bit, because I know people get stomped with us on a lot. Like, what movie or TV show title best describes your week?
My week, like currently?
Could be currently, or like during your week, like.
Gosh, I tell you what it is right now, and I'm not a big, like, I'm a pretty simple dude, man. Like, I don't watch a ton of TV. I like reality. Like, I watch cooking shows and fishing shows and Sports Center, but you know, I'm a big documentary guy. I tell you what, the best title to describe my week right now is Groundhog Day. That's one of my favorite movies. Right? It doesn't every day feel like Groundhog Day right now. So I don't, that's the best I got for you.
I got you. Someone else said that too. You know what? A UMass Lowell women's assistant coach. She said the same thing. Like, yeah. So that's kind of ties. What's your favorite word or phrase that you end up using a lot?
I got a couple of them probably. You know, honesty is the best policy. You know what I mean? I may butt heads with certain players or certain people, but they're always going to know where I stand on something. So that's one. Honesty is the best policy. I think another one, which I've used my whole life, is my grandmother taught me, is treat people the way you want to be treated, and that's the way I try to live my life. And then, you know, I got a saying I use with the guys a little bit, and you know, my thought on this is winners work hard. You know, they work smart and they work together. Losers complain and blame. And I
like
think
that.
If you really look at it, and I don't know, like if I got that from somebody or I just pieced together a bunch, but I've used that now for the last couple of years. And I believe that. Like if you're a winner, you're going to work hard. And a lot of people work hard. You're going to work smart, but you're going to work together with the people around you. That's a winning formula. Losers are always blaming other people and complaining about things. So those are my three sayings right there.
Love them, man. Love them. Simple, powerful. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given, Ralph?
Be true to yourself, you know, and just be true to yourself. Do you know what I mean? And there's a million different ways to skin a cat. There's people that do all different types of jobs, and you know, there's you know, plenty of different ways to be successful coaching basketball. There's plenty of different ways to be successful teaching. There's plenty of different ways to cook a meal the right way. Do you, man? Be true to yourself, I'd say.
Love it. What does success mean to you?
Success to me is like, you know, when it's all like, you know, we talk about winning, and if you don't win enough, man, like you're not going to be long for the business. And, you know, so immediately when someone asks a basketball coach or in our line of work, like success, everyone thinks winning, and that truly is important, very important. But I think at the end of the day, success to me is definitely winning, but it's also just touching as many people as I can in a positive way. And maybe there's student athletes I've been coached along the way that at the end of the day, we're a little better off for me recruiting them or coaching them. And that's success to me is, you know, on Father's Day, getting calls and texts and me responding back to them, yo, happy Father's Day to you. You know what I mean? Like, you know, seeing my former players have success, get their degrees, have families, you know, being happy in life, like that, that's success to me, even more so than the winning. Although we got to win or I'm going to be in a different line of work. So.
Understandable. Speaking of happy, where is your happy place? Because you know you have losses. Whether it's you lose in recruiting, you lose a game. It's like where's your happy place, Ralph? Where is that?
I'm gonna say, and I know this isn't the answer you want. I'm not like I enjoy being in the gym with my guys. I can put everything in my life outside. All right, so but I know that's the answer you don't want to hear. But like being at practice with the players, working with young student athletes is definitely one of my happy places. I sitting in my lawn chair in right field away from every other human being, watching my oldest son play baseball that's as close to my happy place. I love that. I just love watching my oldest son play baseball. Being on the beach with my family would be a happy place, just my wife and kids and you know, maybe my parents when we go up and visit them. Those two. And then I'm a big horse track guy. I love the energy and competitiveness and the camaraderie of of a horse track. So I enjoy that. That'd be my one vice, I guess, during the off season. I like horse tracks. So those are my three right there, man.
Listen. I love all of them. I'll like, hey, this is your answer. So if you like it, I love it. Trust me. I don't. No, there's no answer that I wouldn't like. Trust me.
Right.
You're not a self promoter. You never have been. You just put your head down and you go to work, man. But like, if you had to choose 3 adjectives that describe yourself, which would you choose?
I don't know. I mean, that's a question somebody else should answer. But I don't know. I think I'm a hard worker. I would hope people would describe me that way. I'm a very transparent person. I'll say that. Whether that's transparency or honesty, I would think. I think that would be another, way to describe me. I don't know, and I think by nature I'm an optimistic person, although some of my players may not feel that way. I don't know. That was definitely one of my younger years, I think, maybe, but yeah, I don't know, man. Hardworking and honest and transparent, and I think I'm a pretty consistent person too. So what you see is what you get, and tough question, man. I don't like you said. I see, the opportunities like this, Lamar, are great for guys like me, and I like to hear about other people, and it is, that's probably one of my downfalls as a coach is I've always worried about the job at hand instead of worrying about the next job and self-promoting, and so I appreciate this opportunity, but you asking me a question like that is, I guess, uncomfortable for me.
Hey, and I respect every answer you have. So like, I mean, and it's like it puts you out there, but it also has you thinking of like, okay, what do I think about myself sometime? I know what other people think, and I think that's a lot of positive things that people think about you. You got a ton of respect in the business. And if you didn't, you wouldn't be here for 23, 24 years. Trust me. Like, what person and or event has had the most influence on your life?
That's a great question. I remember as a kid. This had a profound effect on me for certain. But I was a diehard. I grew up just south of Boston, in the Boston area, and I was a diehard Celtics fan as a kid. And my uncle Paul was an assistant at Villanova, and I remember him always talking about Michael Jordan and a guy named Len Bias. So I watched those guys play, and this is in the early '80s, man, where you got like 1 or 2 games a week on TV. But when the Celtics drafted Len Bias, I was so ecstatic, and I was an 11-year-old kid, man, 11-year-old kid living in Boston, like, and we're coming off a championship, and now we're going to keep winning championships because this guy's the next best thing. Like, and when he passed away, I just remember, like, I didn't know the guy, and I was devastated as a kid, because of what might have been. You know what I mean? And yeah. I think that woke me up to the war on drugs, for lack of a better term. So that had a big effect on me. And then, that was actually like the second major thing in a year or two, at a very pivotal point in my life, because, Gary McLean was the point guard on those Villanova teams. And my uncle had been an assistant and had recruited Gary, and Gary was my favorite player when I was 8, 9, 10, 11, and then when they won that national title, and then Gary McLean was on the cover of Snow and High on cocaine or what have you, so that woke me up to that. And then Len Bias, a couple months later, passing away. Those two things definitely had an impact on my life and my childhood. You know, I'll go back to just, you know, you get so caught up and we get so caught up in our routine as coaches, and you've been through it as well for many years. You know, the world just passes you by so quick, you know, and you know, obviously the morning, you know, that we got let go at Delaware and I'm sitting in the hotel trying to figure out how to handle it with my family. That's a more recent, you know, major event in my life. You know, and then outside of me personally, I just this last 3 months, man, I never in my wildest dream thought the world would shut down. And you know, I look back, we were 2 or 3 weeks into this thing, and my wife said to me, she's like, I'm proud of you. And I said, what? Like, proud? She goes, just think about how you spent your last 23 years. Like, you know, you've been in the gym working with your players, or you've been in a rental car or on an airplane going to find better players, or you've been in a restaurant or a bar with other coaches, you know, doing business deals, talking business. She goes, all that's been taken away from you. And that's my life in the last 23 years, man. Being in a gym or traveling to being in the gym, or, you know, being in a hotel or you know, restaurant and you know, talking basketball, and all that stuff was taken away. So I you know, I don't underestimate what's happened the last 3 months. This is going to be the biggest thing of our lifetime and in our children's lifetime, you know, and you know, and then the racial injustice recently as well. I think that's going to be, I hope it's finally, you know, heading in the right direction. And if there's one positive that can come out of this, people are talking about it like more, and that's because of the pandemic, because people have more time to talk about it. So I don't know, there's 4 or 5 events that I think I'll look back at the end of the day and be like, those were pretty, you know, major things, as well as marrying my wife and having children. You know, I don't want to leave that out.
Got to make sure you throw that in there. You're right. Those are all great things. And it's interesting you said that, because I can remember the morning, you know, in 1986 when my grandmother called me and was like, Len Bias died. I cried because I was a huge Len Bias fan. And then I made a promise to God that I would never do drugs in my life. And I 49 years old, and I can still say that to this day. So, you know, like that scared me. And like you said, like that's one of those things that like changes your life forever. Cause I was like, man, if he can do it and die, you know, same thing can happen to me. So those are changing things. Well, I'm gonna ask this last question. I love ending the show with this. Like, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your young self to prepare for as an assistant coach?
I don't know. I think I've probably answered that question with some of the other answers, but you know, my thing would be, you know, if I was telling my young self, or I was, you know, and I get these calls a lot about guys getting into coaching, and you know, you gotta, it's such a repetitive thing, but you gotta, the good ones work hard. You know, you gotta be, I think you gotta be diverse. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if there's a right way, Lamar, or a wrong way to advance yourself in this business. You know, you see a lot of young guys that were good players or were tied into high level programs early in their career, and they're, you know, GAs, and then they're video guys, and then they're ops guys, you know, and they grind it, and they're good at those things. And, you know, it's they're 30 to 35 years old before they've ever been on the court and coached, or before they've ever been in a gym to evaluate. And I almost think the best way, if you want to get to the highest level, is to do it that way, honestly. But that wouldn't be the advice I'd give my younger self. Like, I look back on my career and having the opportunity to be on the floor and coaching at 21, 22, 23 years old, and signing my first guy when I'm 20, 22 years old. Like, you know, I've always coached, you know. Now, I've done the operation stuff because there was no ops guy at Pan Am when I was there. There's no ops guy at the Division 3 and 2 level. You know, I'm booking the hotels and the buses and pregame meals. So I've gotten a taste of all the different aspects, you know, of the business. But again, I you know, work hard, treat people the right way. and put yourself, get to know as many people as possible. Like you and I haven't touched upon it during this, but you and I got to know each other working camps, at the hoop group and staying up all night, in the lounge, just rapping with different peoples from different walks of life, different level coaches. Back in the day, man, there was Division I coaches in there, Division II and III guys, all you dudes from PG County, high school coaches, like AAU dudes. Like I'll say this, I met more people and I did more networking, working those camps, those summers, whatever, 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row. Like we were nomads, man. We from the end of June to the end of August, we were somewhere working camps together. And it's a shame they've changed the rules so much now that young coaches don't have the opportunity to do those things, because I can't imagine, I don't know if I would have made it this long in the business without the relationships I built, just working hard and working smart and being around good people. And, those were fun times, man. And that's why I'm on the call today. That's probably why I'm an assistant at NJIT right now. You know what I mean? With those nights in the Wolf Lounge,
So true, man. That's so true. Like those were great days. Like you say, like that was the way I was taught how to get into the business. Like you had to network and, you worked camp and you grinded everything out. Like, like you said, I was a high school, I'm going from JV coach to high school assistant. Like, I start working your way up and and then you learn everything. It's nothing that you don't know, once you get in, even in the college coaching. Like, I've the scheduling to, you saying like a lot of the administrative stuff, like you do that. And I think it makes you so much better, in the long run. But I mean, Jeff, I want to thank you again. And I know a lot of times, like Jeff is hard to say, calling him. We always, if everyone knows him, he's Ralph to everyone. Jeff Rafferty is his name, but everyone calls him Ralph. It's very rare that people call him Jeff. So I just say, thank you again for being a guest on the show and being unmasked. Is there anything you want to leave with the viewers before we go?
Man, I just want to thanks so much for the opportunity. This was a lot of fun, and this is a new world we're all living in. We're doing these Zoom meetings with our team and our staffs and our recruits, and and I've done a bunch of these coaching clinics and everything else, and they get tiresome and boring. And today this was a lot of fun, man, and I appreciate you having me on, and it was fun reconnecting with you, man. Keep in touch.
All right, man. Thanks, Jeff. So thank you viewers for watching another great show. Stay tuned for the next guest as we get them unmasked. See you next time and stay safe.